Okay, so we left off on the last video where we had done the first scene, as if I flick back, scene 1, which is Bloodhaven, and now I am working on scene 2. And if you forgot how I did that, I went to insert and I added a new scene. So just working on the second scene, and I'm just drawing the grass area, which I'm going to use the bucket tool to fill in. And what I do I always use the brush tool, change the color, and if you hold down the shift key, you can draw these beautifully straight lines. And don't worry if you go over the edge, it won't show up. And you should be able to make sure there's no gaps, and the bucket tool may or may not work. It worked, great. So that's my background layer. Now, if the background layer is above the car, so up there, and I show using the eye and I unlock, you'll notice you can't see the car. It's not there because it's behind the background layer. So if the bottom layer is always the furthest layer away. So you want to drag the furthest layer away, the background layer. It needs to be the bottom layer. Now the car's not moving, but I think it's always good practice to draw objects on their own layer. So if you want to animate them, you can. So there is actually only one thing. If I go back to the scene, they're in a car and the moon is rising. That's basically, it says the red moon rises. So we're going to do that. Draw another layer and drag that to the I'll call it moon. I'm going to probably reduce that frames down a lot by removing them. Okay, so in this one I'm gonna lock the others so I don't draw on them. And in this one I'm gonna draw a moon. A red moon. Using the circle oval tool. So I'll draw the moon over here somewhere. And now all I do is click in here, right click and go insert keyframe. This copies the picture, the dot there, makes another dot, which is a keyframe. So it copies the picture from the last keyframe. So now I have the moon copied from there to here. I can add as many frames as I want to this keyframe because it's only one. It only goes for one, duration of one. That's pretty quick. So add more frames so that picture lasts longer. And I can use the arrow tool there to slowly move it. Now, I can't see where it came from when I moved it, so it would be helpful if I could see how far I'd moved it, and that is where the onion skin comes in really handy. You can see its previous, where it was in the last keyframe. So I can sort of see the shadow of where it's moved from. Okay, so that's onion skin. So onion skin lets you look back in time a little bit. Now in here I'm going to insert another keyframe, copy the picture of the moon, move it a bit, and add some more frames so it doesn't go too fast, because otherwise that's going to be the fastest rising moon. Like, it'll be crazy fast. And I'll just keep doing that. Right click, add keyframes, moving it slightly, and adding more frames. And if you don't add more frames, it just moves very fast. And add keyframe, move it, add more frames. So that's how you can move it. Quite easy. Now I'll just show you sort of what happens if you just keep adding keyframes and moving it. And you'll see why it's probably a bit too fast. Just adding keyframes and moving it. I'll play it using Command Return or Enter, just to play it so you can see what's happening. So it's going really fast at the end. Yeah, so that's very fast. So you can click in there and add more frames to slow it down. Slow it down, because it is moving a little fast on those keyframes. Now, I would like to show one other technique for making the moon move. So we'll add a keyframe, and I'm just going to add frames right to the end, just so that keyframe is visible for a long period of time. Okay. Now this has been moving. If we go back, this has been the back. Yep. This is moving. See how it's moving through the frames, and then we've got movement happening by adding keyframes. But on this one, it doesn't move at all now. It stays the same spot there. Okay, so in this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and I'm going to add a motion tween. Now what that lets me do, I have to click OK. What that lets me do is click anywhere along here and move it. So I'm going to click right to the end there, and the last frame of that on there, the last frame, and I'm just going to move this thing to where I want it to be. And it's going to go boom, boom, boom. So watch what happens when I move it now. Play the movie. See? Beautiful, smooth movement. Yep. So that is basically how you do it. Frame by frame or a motion tween. Whichever way you like. Remember the layers. If you're going to move something, put it on its own layer and add keyframes to make things move. Onion skin's very useful for letting you look back over different keyframes as you move an object. And you can bend things. You can bend shapes. Okay, that's animating. Hopefully you go and animate some really good stuff, and like to see what you guys can do in the future.